Well, welcome everybody to the Goso TV, to the Trick Podcast with Joe. It's a pleasure to have you here on this beautiful, what today is Monday already, May 25th. Happy Memorial Day weekend, by the way. I hope that you're out there enjoying your barbecues, enjoying your family. I know that we're all quarantined and it's a very different time of the year, but no matter what, I want to thank you for being here on this beautiful weekend. I've had a great day. I've already had my coffee. I already enjoyed some time in my backyard. I have a hammock back there. Just a beautiful, gorgeous day. I hope that wherever you are, however you are, that you can be enjoying Goso TV and the Trick Podcast of Joy. Goso, by the way, means joy in Spanish. And we bring guests here every week that are people that have a passion in their belly to serve others. And today I'm so excited to introduce a good friend of mine, a wonderful human being. Her name is ALICIA KHOO. She's an attorney and mediator, passionate about human rights, and a mother, most importantly, of a beautiful 2-year-old beautiful boy. So ALICIA, welcome to the show. How are you, by the way?
Thank you for having me, Trick. I am doing wonderful. How about you?
I'm doing amazing. It's been a really crazy time of the year. I think everyone can relate to this virus, this pandemic. I call it an opportunity and a transition. Mm-hmm. It really has everyone kind of figuring out new things. And that's why I was excited to have you come on the show, because first of our friendship, we have known each other for, I guess, about 8 or 9 years. It's been a beautiful time. But I think second, because as I mentioned, our audience wants to know that people are still caring out there, that not everyone is mad at the government or mad at something, that even though there is pain in the night, that, as I like to say here, Goso, or joy, comes in the morning.
Goso.
That's right. So I wanted to ask you, ALICIA, just a little bit about maybe the backstory, a little bit of first of what you do and what is it that you're passionate about, and to kind of introduce yourself to the audience. So give us a little bit of your backstory, if you would.
Okay, so I am an attorney. I'm also a mediator. I also arbitrate cases. And I work in a few different areas of the law. Namely, I do immigration law under the umbrella of human rights. I do family law, mediation. I do business law. So contract disputes, as you know, Trick, I'm a contract nerd. I really enjoy contracts. My main focus when I pursued becoming an attorney was when I worked in human rights at law firms that did political asylum as one of their areas. And I remember working in this field and realizing that I needed to become an attorney. So I just, kept pushing through to get licensed. And at the same time, so that's my main focus. However, in order to finance my pro bono work, I still have my other streams of income from my other areas, which is like contract disputes and family law, and also immigration, certain immigration applications.
Yeah, I remember how when we met, you were in the middle of your schooling and really pushing hard to get all of your ducks lined up so that you could become the attorney that you now are. Now, my guess, if I'm out there listening to your story, everyone longs to be an attorney. Little boys and girls, since they're little tiny people, they're like, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. So my guess is it was super easy, right, for you to become an attorney, like no problem. I'm being sarcastic here. Tell us a little bit about what did you learn through the journey of becoming an attorney?
So I'm glad that I actually worked in the field before going to law school, because it solidified it solidified that I was meant for the job or the field. So I do recommend working in a certain field first, maybe in a lower capacity on the front lines, just to get a feel of what your vocation is. So yeah, my journey through law school was that I was actually on my way to get my master's in social work. I wanted to be a social worker. Um, and along the way, I just started working and put Masters of Social Work on hold. I wanted to save up for it, pay my own way, my Masters of Social Work. And I realized that I really loved the law. I really loved it. I felt like in the law is a tool. It's a tool for ministry. It's a tool for um, helping others, and really enjoyed it. It was hard. It was backbreaking work sometimes.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, I mean, we're like desk warriors. But yeah, it was grueling because I was, a paralegal law clerk, and you work insane hours, and because I loved my clients so much, especially the human rights ones, their cases were so important to me. I would do overtime, without pay. I didn't really care, but yeah, really didn't have a life. But I realized after working in the field that I could somehow use my passion for social work, which is helping others, and go into the law as well. And I also enjoy the nerdy stuff like contracts and all of that. So it was perfect for me. And the attorneys that I worked for also taught me operations. They just took me under their wing. They gave me a lot of responsibilities as I grew in their practices. And it was wonderful because I started to figure out that there could be some sort of work-life balance for me. I could design my own work life and personal life, family life. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, basically, you advise to have some sort of jobs to make sure that you love the journey. And so I think it's great advice to someone maybe that's an undergrad doing a degree in business or in criminal law, that they do something practical to make sure they love it. Is that kind of what you think?
I think, maybe even an internship, 6 month, 1 year stint. And I mean, get dirty, like get, if you really want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or whatever vocation you think you might be interested in, I think, it's good to get dirty, get on the front lines. And really, I mean, because even like, for example, being a teacher, we think teachers are like, oh, I just stand there all day and talk to people. Like I just talk to people, listen. But it's not that simple. Like teachers have to go through so much like administration as well. And that's, sometimes there's teacher burnout if you're not ready. So lawyers as well, there's lawyer burnout, doctors, there's doctor burnout. So yeah, I would really recommend trying your hand in a few different internships in a few different fields, and knowing what it feels like, and getting mentors in that field too.
Yeah, it's great advice because no one knows the cost, I guess, or the price that you have paid, and many other attorneys and people in professional fields. And for a mom who may be listening, maybe a sister to someone who's in school, it's great advice from someone who just did it, who has been through it, and who's now practicing, and that heart is still beating for people to learn what it takes. Now, speaking of your heart, I know that also just something that I've enjoyed about you is you're an author, and you've written many different books and poems, and we won't go into that part of your life at this particular moment, but just tell me maybe just briefly for our audience that may be both artistic and also into justice, what has art, I see a guitar back there, what has music or singing or writing, what has been the role of you as an artist? What has been the role that's played in your love for the law?
So my books that I write, I have one coming up in next month. But I did have chapbooks out before. It's poetry chapbooks. So, I mean, they're basically a portfolio for publishers. I have been published in anthologies in Paris and Long Beach, but really writing is just my passion. It's a passion. It's all passion projects. I really don't do it full time because I don't see that it's going to bring me a feasible revenue stream. So I need to have something for me, anyways. I needed something practical full time while I could work on my passion project.
That's awesome.
So,
That's great.
As if I think it's important to produce your art because that's how you were designed. I mean, if you're a creative, you love to write, paint, sing, play instruments, produce music. I mean, I think it's very important for the soul to let these up, because it's also how we express our emotions and express ourselves to the world and things like that. So
yeah,
I could go on and on forever about,
I know that we're passionate about that. And I love talking about the art of the justice person, because even from the Bible, you have, of course, Jesus being a carpenter, and yet he was a savior of the world. You had David, who was the chief, the commander in chief of maybe the biggest army of his time, who was a psalmist. And so I always love the combination of justice and grace, because
definitely,
I think it touches that passion that we have in us. Now, speaking of passion, let's talk about practical things now. By the way, I want to invite and encourage our viewers right now. We are live on 6 to 7 different platforms. If you have a question for our attorney and mediator, Alicia, whether it's in terms of education or in terms of an actual case, feel free to leave that comment. We have a live chat here on the screen that you can see your questions, and then I'll pass them on to Alicia. But I wanted to ask you, Alicia, in terms of what we're seeing right now with this pandemic or this opportunity, this transition, some people have noticed that there's been an increase in violence. What, in your office, in your practice, what are you seeing are the unique cases or challenges of this particular season?
Okay, so domestic violence is I'm an advocate. I'm a survivor advocate, and I'm also it's called trauma informed. I'm trauma informed. I know what I know what domestic violence is. Been in some relationships. During the pandemic, everyone is stuck at home. And if there was domestic violence prior to the pandemic lockdown, a lot of families have seen it escalate dramatically. And it's funny that you mentioned domestic violence, because just yesterday, while I was on a work call, there was screaming happening. Someone was being whipped with a belt. And just curling, screaming in my area, and we had to go investigate. And I was like, I know what this sounds like. I've heard it before, and so it's real and it's happening. And I wish I knew who, where, because then I could somehow help out with the authorities and things like that. But we don't know where it came from. But I definitely have my eyes and out with the neighbors and everything to hopefully, because this is going to sound trigger warning. This is going to sound a little graphic, but sometimes when a survivor is too much, a person, any human, they can pass out. So that's what happened yesterday, because we heard screaming, the beating, and then complete silence. So I think that's what happened. Okay, so I've worked with survivors a lot, and was your question what I think?
What are you noticing out there, and what can people do? Yes.
So as a mediator, I'm a trauma-informed mediator. I would say if you're contemplating an escape, if you're in that situation right now, of course, call 911. if you're in danger, you know, don't dismiss yourself. However, if you're in more of like a psychological abuse, it's not like a immediate physical danger. You're just in fear all the time, and you know it's wrong, and you want out. I strongly advise actually having something I call an exit strategy. It's very important, and it could take some people, a month, a few months. It could take some people a few years. I really hope as little time as possible. Definitely, if someone is going through this, I hope you get your exit strategy going with as little time as possible. However, I also understand that because of emotional abuse and things like that, and also financial abuse is very where you could take some time to get savings together to find a safe place to go. Maybe you need a shelter. Maybe you have kids. It's very difficult, and I completely understand. So my job, when I do encounter as a family law attorney and mediator, it's one of the areas I practice. When I do encounter people in domestic violence and also in the immigrant community, huge in the immigrant community. I filed VAWA cases before in the work that I've done, which is violence against women, which we can talk about more later. But VAWA is not very well known. So working with these survivors is not just women, overwhelmingly women that I work with, but there are some men. I help them to form an escape route, an exit strategy. And when you plan your exit strategy, you have to not let your abuser know. They cannot know, because they will do everything to sabotage it. So yeah, there are a lot of, it's very strategic. It's like a chess game, I call it.
Like a what? I'm sorry?
A chess game.
Okay.
It's like a game of chess. It's very strategic if you're in abuse and you're trying to plan your escape. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested in this topic because, as you mentioned, the immigrant community experiences this daily, if not, every couple of hours. I work, like we both do, among what we used to call the inner city poor. Now we just call it humanity. And so I hear cases both through different leadership teams as well as just from neighbors and friends of just those glimpses into that woman who comes out of the house with a black eye and the husband's like, hushing her away to get back in the house. When we go visit people, just even randomly, we walk around the neighborhood. And of course, we have to report that, and we have to follow a certain protocol as clergy. And some of the challenges that we have faced is that people are afraid to call the cops because of immigrant status, yes, because of financial worry, because of the cops won't do anything unless the wife files or does, I don't know what the legal terms would be. And so the wife or the woman will not report the husband, because then her income will be lost. He's providing income, and so the kids may suffer. And so maybe this is a good place to talk about what you mentioned in terms of violence against women. What have you learned in terms of this anomaly, or not an anomaly, but this crisis? And what can women do when caught between doing the right thing and yet other fears that they may have?
It's such a complex thing, because abuse is not just physical. Sometimes there is psychological and emotional abuse, mm-hmm. That doesn't leave physical marks, and that's why the person that is going through it isn't taken seriously. Mm-hmm. That's a really, really tough one, but it really helps when you have a trauma-informed attorney or trauma-informed mediator who says, I believe you, because no one believes them. I've had cases where the person is wealthy, very wealthy. And everyone says, but you guys are rich. How can there be any abuse? You know?
Wow.
And it sucks because just, there's no correlation. It doesn't mean that someone's socioeconomic status makes them more or less likely to be an abuser or to be abused. So yeah.
Yeah. Now let's switch gears a little bit, and I guess maybe to pause on that, I do want to say that if anybody out there in this audience who may be watching this live or after the fact on the replay, we will give Alicia's links at the end of this show so that you can reach out to her and for a consultation and discuss with her your particular need and case. So, but switching gears a little bit, Alicia, in terms of what, immigration is such a hot topic. I think it'll be for the rest of humanity, right? What have you noticed, whether it's right now or the last 4 years, or maybe as we come into a new election season and maybe the next 4 years, whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden and maybe even regardless of politics, what are you seeing coming up next for immigrants? Are there any good news in the horizon? I know. Sorry to open that Pandora's box, but it's what people are thinking about.
It had to be done. It had to be done.
Yeah.
I do work in the field.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start.
What could happen? What is the best case scenario? What's the status quo right now?
So let me just say, first and foremost, immigrants are not rats.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah.
We're all humans. It's messed up. This whole thing is messed up. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about what I think about humanity first.
Yes.
The history of humanity is a history of migration. Because we live on this earth together and we all build something together, and it's very simple. We are human. So there are tactics that are being done that dehumanize the population, very similar to the Holocaust, the initial stages of the Holocaust. There's a great human rights researcher and professor who did the 9 stages of genocide. He researched all the genocides in the world. And we're in like the 5th or 6th stage. Dehumanization.
6th stage.
Dehumanization. Villainization. This group is the reason we don't have jobs. This group is the reason we are this and that. That's why the economy is failing. That's why this is this. America is a land of immigrants. Okay, let's get that straight first. I love this country because this country stands for so much. Okay, and it's great that we have people fighting the good fight because we're in the 5th or 6th stage. We all know what happened back in the day, World War II, when people weren't aware, or they were aware and they didn't really care. Because, why would you care about people who aren't, or why would you care about creatures who aren't human or subhuman? Okay. All right. So I had to say that. I can't handle when I see a population, a group of people being dehumanized. Okay. I can't handle it. All right. Now, next, politics. Just rewind to everything I just said earlier, and that's what I'm going to say about politics.
Yep. It has to be said.
Not naming names, just saying. I think there are some great immigration attorneys that are fighting the good fight too. And of course, everything needs to be reasonable. Everything needs to be reasonable. We don't excuse anyone if there are crimes being committed, obviously, just like any person. This is just, we're all reasonable. Come on. no one gets a free pass. I see that in my work all the time. Like, you don't get people just don't, no one gets a free pass, even if you're not an immigrant. No one should. When it comes to, if you like a violent crime, any sort of, things that hurt people. So, yeah, there's so much more to say, but I'm just gonna stop right there.
That's a very beautiful way to say it, starting with humanity, because
Yes.
that is what happens in these stages, as you mentioned. The dehumanization of each other is what's even happening now with this pandemic and the inordinate amount of African Americans that are dying, more than any other race. Or whether you look at New Orleans or the Holocaust, or just the last 100 years with the Latino or the Asian American community, we have all of these different barometers or moments where we could have done better. What do you think causes another human to look at their own humanity? What can help people to become more human once again?
There's some movies.
Okay,
like
well,
Amistad, American History X.
There you go.
The Boy in Striped Pajamas.
Okay.
I think the educational system here really needs to figure things out in terms of why there's so much divide. There's so much division amongst people, groups of people. And I mean, I don't know, like maybe some people might consider it a problem, but I only see human. I see a human who has cultural heritage, which is amazing. Like, differences just like make us richer,
Right.
It's variations. We all have genetic variations that because of a geographical climate that we lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And, like a certain group of people was in a certain geographical climate for a while due to conditions. And yeah, genetically, we just, kind of evolved together and we all look the way we do. But, it's my son is Brazilian and Asian. He has Japanese in him, Chinese, Taiwanese. What else does he have? African, European, Native. He has Native Tupi tribe.
Tupi.
Tupi tribe from Brazil. I mean, we're human. Come on, everyone. Let's. I can't even. Yeah.
But movies and art, I agree with you that, and I think going back to even what we talked about earlier in terms of our own personal love for the arts, there's no doubt that music and art informs our passion, maybe even calms our nerves and our rage, and can lead us towards hope and peace. And obviously the scriptures, for both of us as spiritual people, we find refuge in the sacred writings. And, but it seems like sometimes the systems don't go far enough, whether it's the courts or the education system, or for sure the religious systems. They don't go far enough to bring about change. Where, in terms of the law, do you see change being possible? Are there places in the future, in the next, 4 or 5 years, where you see the law making a difference in terms of these immigration issues?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, it was a very confusing question. Let me simplify it. How can attorneys...
Objection.
Yeah, exactly. How can attorneys and the law give hope to some of these problems?
So I think initially your question was about, was it biblical at first?
Yeah, I was referring to how the Bible sometimes can help. Yeah, maybe we can talk about the Bible. Where does the Bible fit into all this?
So I went to a Christian law school, and I learned Christian jurisprudence. I mean, general jurisprudence, but also a Christian strand. And I think it's amazing because, our is a God who loves. He is love and he is justice. And justice is ingrained in our hearts, which is why we always want to balance the scales. There's always some yearning to balance the scales. We talk, we just, it's always about equity, fairness. Humans just have this natural incline, which is what I studied in natural law. It's not naturalism, it's natural law.
Okay.
You're talking about Aquinas and,
Thomas Aquinas. Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're talking about Aquinas and a lot of other of the greats. So humans have this need, yearning for justice. We're made in God's image, but then we also live in a fallen world. And I think, as a Christian, I see the law as a tool for ministry. It can be used. The law is something that used to oppress, persecute, or it can be used to vindicate. So it's a double-edged sword. I also think the law is written on men's hearts, and the legal field. I do see hope in the legal field. I think there's always hope.
Wow. I love what you're saying there. Maybe we can deepen that thought you had there about the law is written in our hearts. I mean, that's what Ezekiel 35:36 talks about, how we used to have, without the Holy Spirit, a heart of stone. But then God says that when he pours out his Spirit, the law would be written in our hearts. And not only that, but then that our hearts would be changed from stone to a heart of flesh, a heart of love. What role, you went to a Christian law school. Obviously, I'm a pastor. We both love Jesus. We're people of faith. What role do you think Jesus, or I guess the secular person would call it spirituality, what role does spirit and faith have in justice? What can people do that aren't attorneys, that aren't clergy, to pray for justice? Is it about prayer? What can people do?
We believe in prayer,
Yeah.
as Christians,
Of course.
But
do you also enjoy, or do you support, or do you support things like what do they call those? When people peacefully protest and social disobedience, what do you think is the role of some of those things?
That's a very big topic, Trick.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. Let me make it really simple, maybe to simplify it. For example, when I lived in Colorado for 3-4 years, I was a part of this almost like an underground movement of clergy and some agnostics, some anarchists, and we'd go outside of the ICE detention centers and protest. And people would honk, either in support, some against. I kind of hid it from my church because I wasn't sure if they would be happy having their pastor be out there praying for the sick or those incarcerated. But the more that I did it for maybe like a month every weekend, the more Christian I felt. I remember I was inside of one of the cells with a man from Guatemala who was detained on his way from LA to, I think he was going to North Carolina, and his van got stuck there in the Rockies in Colorado, was detained, and he didn't want me to represent him. I mean, I'm not an attorney. He didn't want, to hate anybody. He wanted me to pray for him and sing him worship songs in Spanish. And that's what I did for those, few minutes with him. And I'll never forget that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess my point maybe is just simply a point of reference. The power of standing in the gap for those incarcerated, for those that are being beaten or abused at home, whether emotionally or physically. I think the church, or we as humans, can do a lot to bring about peace, whether it's prayer, whether it's visiting someone who's in jail, whether it's listening to this show and just being aware of what's happening. And maybe it's just simply a point of comment on the power of prayer and of being spiritual people in these situations.
Yeah, I think if someone is being led to do humanitarian work or activities, like you're saying you're doing peaceful protests and activism, basically.
Right.
I think everyone can do their part. If someone has it in their heart to be an activist for a certain cause, I think everyone is doing their part. We're all, like the Bible says, we're all different parts of different parts of the body, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, my activism is I don't go to protests or anything. I think I might end up going to some in the future, but my activism for the past decade has really been in the field of political asylum and working with people who have fled horrendous conditions and advocating for them to the best of the team, advocate. So I'm part of a team and we advocate for them together collectively to the best of our abilities, as if it's our own case. Love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah.
Wow. What a beautiful thing, to maybe even wrap up a little bit of our conversation on this. It is a complex topic, and I think we've just begun to scratch the surface on this. I do want to just go to the comments here. We do have 4 people here online watching us live, so I want to say thank you to those who are watching us live. We have here Arcelio Hernandez, my dear friend. He is watching us live from Costa Rica in Central America. And I believe he's also an attorney at law. So we're thankful for this connection that we have here via Zoom and via all these different platforms. But maybe as a way to wrap up, Alicia, what would you say is the best way for people to get a hold of you? How can people reach out to you? What is it what are your services that you provide for people if they want to reach out to you?
So the Law and Mediation Office of ALICIA KHOO. I am on Facebook as Ali the Lawyer, on Instagram as Ali the Lawyer, and you can find me there. You can also find me on AVVO, AVVO.
Okay.
And there are various platforms, but you can also look for me through Trig.
Yes.
Direct connection.
That's right. You guys can come and check out this show. And as I said, we're going to put all of Alicia's links at the bottom of this episode so that you can follow her on Instagram and Facebook, and you can message her and reach out and see what connection can be made. I think just in closing, Alicia, I just want to, again, not just thank you for our friendship and your work, but I just want to acknowledge your humanity, that you are someone who has overcome and whose heart continues to beat for those in need, for the humanity around you. And not only is that your job, but it's really your life. I mean, from who you are to your family, to your beautiful boy, to all the things that you mentioned. I was specifically and especially touched by your statement of the value of the human being and how really it all starts with humanity. And I think that, it challenges me because I'm in a very diverse church where we have about 6 different nationalities and 3 different languages. And even for us clergy people and people of faith, pastors, we constantly have to go back to the scriptures to love one another. And to Amos, where it says, let justice roll like a river. And I'm encouraged by what you're doing because you're doing the same thing. And I know that a lot of our viewers who may be watching this live or who may be watching this on the replay can relate to that. Do you have any final words of encouragement to our audience who may be watching?
So as you know, there is a lot of anti-Asian racism now because of COVID. And it's terrifying, actually. So I created a task force for the Asian diaspora in the UK, Europe, Australia, and the US. It's called the Asian Alliance Buddy System. So we coordinate and help people out if they feel vulnerable and are afraid to walk their dog, or they need someone to walk with them. Yes. So if anyone needs anything, contact me if you want to be part of the buddy system. And there are people who care, and I would say let's all love one another.
It's wonderful. I want to read another comment here from another good friend. He's from Puerto Rico, and Omar Colon, and he left a comment here. Says, Alicia, God bless you. May the power of his love be in you. I think that's a wonderful prayer.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much. God bless you too.
Yeah, we have over 15 people suddenly. They just came on live. So if you are coming in just here at this moment, we want to welcome you. And I want to encourage you to, as soon as this live is over, to go back. The replay will be on all these platforms for the next weeks and months. And so we want to encourage you, if you are watching this live or after the replay, to go to the bottom of this video and click on all the links so that you can get in touch with Alicia. Alicia, as you know, you're a beautiful friend. We have shared so much. I love your art, your music, now your beautiful family, and of course your passion to serve. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Trig. I love everything you stand for as well.
Thank you. And to all of our viewers, make sure that you share this broadcast with your friends. Make sure that you go out there, whether you are on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram Live, and subscribe to this channel. Share this broadcast with your friends. Let everyone know that there is hope and there are people like Alicia that are here to stand with you as we all seek the love of God. Thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to The David Trigg Show. Find the complete archive at davidtrigg.com or subscribe for free through the podcast app on iTunes or Stitcher on Android.
Each week, we bring you a message of joy, success, and personal power in spite of fear, anxiety, and depression. Because as we like to say, though there's pain in the night, gozo comes in the morning.